Does size really matter? I'm going to break down every property in my portfolio. I've been investing in property now for about 10 years and I've kind of done everything. I've been around the block, as it were. I'm not sure I like these references, but I have bought buy-to-lets, rent-to-rents, HMOs, service accommodations, developments, and even a hotel in South Dakota when the oil was starting to come in. Like, seriously, what was I doing? And so many flips, different developments, assisted sales, and of course, my boring vanilla buy-to-let portfolio. So after 10 years, what is it I focus on now? First of all, why do I even invest in a portfolio? A lot of people actually ask me this outside of the property space. So I've got friends in businesses where they make similar amounts of money. So we all make around £10 million a year through our businesses, which I know is an insane amount of money, but they talk about investments and stocks and all of that. And a lot of them now invest in property after chatting with me. They go, but why do you bother doing it? Because you could spend the money here, you could do that. And they get confused because say you've got a business where you put in a load of effort and make $1 million a month, and you can spend money on ads where I might spend £10,000 and get a ROAS, a return on ad spend of maybe £30,000. So a 3x, 300% return, right? So why would you invest in something that's only going to get you 10, 15% return? And the reason is there's a big difference between active and passive income. I like my active income to be active, exciting, high value, high stakes, and that's my businesses. And then the passive, the slow money, I like it to be properly passive, which I'll get into how I do that in a moment, where I can set it and forget it, do the work once and benefit forever. The other reason, and why property in particular, is the bricks and mortar, the capital growth, the depreciation, the inflation on debt, all of those things that allow me to actually triple my net worth through my investments over every 10-year period. To give you an idea, my portfolio right now gives me, give or take, £1 million a year in new equity every year, and that is without any rent or anything like that, just because I own the assets, which is absolutely insane, thinking I could stop now, not have any cash flow, my net worth goes up $1 million a year just from owning them. So no matter what job you've got, and a really cool game with this is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where you could be the mechanic or the pilot and everything. It doesn't matter how much money you earn, you can create passive income and, more importantly, a legacy through property. Final thing is see it, smell it, touch it. I like the tangibility. I like the fact that I own stocks and shares as well, but a news article could come out. I had one the other day. I own quite a lot of stocks. I won't say what it's in, but Warren Buffett divested. So he sold off his shares, and that caused my shares to drop. It's like, nothing changed in the business. The economics didn't change, but a news article, somebody big divesting, suddenly panic, and it happens. Property just doesn't work like that. I like the see it, smell it, touch it tangibility with 1,000 years of evidence. My journey of building a portfolio, it started with rent-to-rents. I got sold the dream of rent-to-rents as an entry-level strategy. It's a great way of It is not an entry-level strategy. It is an absolute ball ache. I had 14 rent-to-rents, and I was so happy when I got rid of them. Genuinely, rent-to-rent is one of my least favorite strategies, mainly because it's sold as an entry-level strategy, which it's not, but this is not the video for that. So I started in rent-to-rents. And it did bring cash flow, to be fair, and it was one of the things that helped me cash flow wise to start my deal packaging business back in the day. And the big problem with it is there's no asset value. Like, it's not your property. You're borrowing it from somebody else that can take it off you at any point where your cash flow goes to zero. But more importantly, there's no tangibility. You don't own the asset. You're not benefiting from capital growth and ownership, which is where the real money is in. I then started to think of other ways that I could make big chunks of money, because that ultimately I didn't really know about deal packaging until, as I said, once I had my rent-to-rent portfolio. But what I started doing is building some flips in. So I'd buy a property, do it up and sell it. And I liked it. I got pretty good at it. The problem was you never make the money you think you're going to make. You always spend more on the refurb than you think you're going to do. It sells for less than you thought it was going to do. The agent charges you more than they said they would. And of course, it all takes a lot longer. And if you're leveraging other people's money, cost of finance, the costs go up, and so your margins are significantly smaller. Then I started looking at developments. I thought, right, Commercial conversions, that seems obvious. Prior approval, right? All very good and stuff, apart from the fact that councils can block prior approval, which none of the educators told me about. Fuckers. So I end up, on my first commercial conversion, I end up getting 70 pence on the pound. That is not a 70% return, that is, I invested a pound and received 70 pence, but the numbers were a lot higher. Great fucking investor, Jamie. Maybe it's me, I'm the common denominator here, right? So then I thought developments. Do some developments makes really good sense, right? Apart from it's awful. Like, it really is awful. Now, by the way, I still do development, so it's not that bad, but it's just so much more complex and so much more nitty-gritty stuff than you think about, and so much effort to really not make that much return. So I end up speaking to a load of developers, and the average return that they made on a good project was 17% at the end of it. With so much risk, and it takes them 2 years to get to it on average, which is insane. And I realised that actually every strategy, including HMOs I've done, service accommodation, they all have their upsides, but the downside for me just didn't make it good enough. So service accommodation, you can make some serious wedge from that until somebody has a party and trashes your house. Or a certain clientele that invites other people nightly to come round, decide to rent it from you for a month, and you get complaints for it. I'll let you deduce that rather than me saying the word on YouTube. Don't know the impact of it. So it's very active strategies, and really that's the problem. I don't mind all the stress of it. I really don't. I own businesses, right? But the point of investments for me are to genuinely reduce my time input, and the asset makes me money, so it's leveraged and my time isn't making me money with investments. And when I had HMOs, service accommodation, it just wasn't the case. And trust me, I did high end, low end, educators told me to do that, all of that. It's all good, it just wasn't what I wanted. And so I end up really narrowing it down to boring vanilla buy-to-lets. And honestly, the net returns, SA, service accommodation, HMOs versus buy-to-let, ended up being about a 4% difference a year. And for that 4%, so they were 4% better than my boring vanilla buy-to-lets, but that 4% difference means I am completely hands-off. All I have is a monthly engagement with my lettings company, and that is it. And for me, that peace of mind is worth so much more than the 4%, but I'll let you make your mind up. So nowadays I've got an entire team that sort of keeps their eye on all of these opportunities. I'm going to break it down for you in a second, but I also rely on software. And if you're not incorporating software and AI into that to search for your opportunities and sort of have a hot list, but also to be able to analyze and get some funding, then you're really missing out. The company that I use a lot, and I've actively got 5 deals going through financing with them at the time of this video, is LENDLORD. LENDLORD are absolutely insane. They are today's video sponsor as well, but I would not be recommending them if you've been watching me for a while. I'll only recommend stuff that I'm actively using. Genuinely, get on it, and over 90% of the features are completely free. Genuinely, I'm not even going to sell it anymore. I'll put a link in the description. Check it out. It will blow your mind what it can do. Okay, let's get into the properties. So just so you know, this will be different by the time you watch it. That's because we're buying aggressively, and I'll tell you about those, what we've got going through right now. But it doesn't include, what it doesn't include is ones we're investing in other people's projects. So loan or joint ventures. So part of our education program, we invest in our team, and we've got around 19 of those going through that aren't included in this. So first of all, just to give you an idea, this is the total deals that we've ever done across the UK, which you can see is quite a widespread. You have to bear in mind we've been doing this for 10 years now. And these are the deals that we did last year for us and our clients. This was the year before, and you can see it's quite concentrated on West and South Yorkshire. And if you look at our ones that we currently own, we've got some up north from an old part of a portfolio, but we don't really focus there. And then a majority of it is all concentrated, as you can see, on West and South Yorkshire. So as of today, we have 101 properties in our portfolio. And actually, that is less than the last time I looked at it. And that's because we had, back in the day, we bought this portfolio in the northeast because we got suckered into cheap property and all of that. and they're just not good investments. I'm not saying any of the Northeast, I'm saying specifically where we had these. So we end up selling that off, and we only focus on high growth areas now in West and South Yorkshire. And I'll break those down, but you saw them on the map. So we have 61 properties that are fully, like, we're on the exit of them. And what we count that as is if we bought it, we finished a refurb, and we're on our long-term product. So if we buy it in cash, I know this sounds weird, we won't count it as our current portfolio. We'll only buy it in cash, which we have about £2 million worth of property. We only count as a portfolio once we've financed out. So that's 61 there, and all of those are in West and South Yorkshire. We also have 9 properties. These are houses going through refurbishment right now. We have 2 HMOs that we already own in various stages of refurb and refinance. And actually, we are renting those out on a social housing basis. Those 2 make a really good investment on there. And otherwise, I wouldn't have the HMOs. I actually really like it. We've got a couple of developments going on as well. So we've got 2 sites going on the development, which we're going to end up retaining. So one of them is a site of 2 houses, and one of them is a site of 3 houses on there. So that's another 13 properties. We have 12 flips going through right now. So just to be clear, these are where we buy them, refinance them, and sell them. Top tip with a flip is if they don't sell, what do you do? I always run a flip if I had to keep it as a buy to let, what would I do? We have got 1 SA service accommodation, and again, these are on some sort of supported living type agreement where we get long-term tenants, but we're paid day rates on them. They don't always work very well, but we've got 1 SA, which is a block. On there, 2 properties, so not exactly the biggest block in the world. We've got investor rescues, so these are people that have invested, something's gone wrong, and then we're getting in. So we've got 2 more properties there, and as I showed on the map, that is where they are. So you can see they are across all West and South Yorkshire. What we've also got going through, which might be done by the time you watch this video, is we have got a buy-to-let going through. We have got 3 blocks of 16 units, so that's 17 more properties, and 7 more ongoing purchases of flips that could become buy-to-lets if they don't work. So that's another 22 properties that are going through. To give you an idea, it will be different by the time you watch it. We're typically taking on about 5 units. And then, as I mentioned, we've got 19 others that are joint ventures or loans with other people. So 19 plus the 22, 41 plus the 101. So in total, I guess, owned and going through 142 properties. So 142 properties. So there we go. So why does size matter? No. Is how many units I have the real aim? No, but it is reflective of what I'm looking to achieve. So where's this all going over the next 5 years? The aim's to get to about 100 million in assets over the next 5-year period, and I am nowhere near that, which I'll break down in a further video. Hint to subscribe again. So really it's the aim to get to 100 million, and it's not a target of how many properties and that. It's just like, my aim is to make good houses, people's homes, and make a decent return on investment. And for me, I'm focusing on the fundamentals. So if I cannot find 100 million of properties in the right areas, and you have to bear in mind, I find properties for investors, and you'll see from that map, they're our properties, and these are investors' properties. They are in the exact same areas, and so I have to prioritize them as well. So my aim is to get to that level, and if I can, amazing. If I can't, but I keep to my fundamentals, that's more important. So people asking, are you going to do more service accommodation, more of that in the future? And the answer is a categoric no as of the time of filming this video. I'm all in on boring vanilla buy-to-lets. I do not want that to be a property business. Running service accommodation is a property business, not a property investment. I'd argue the same for some types of HMOs as well. So for me, boring, vanilla, buy-to-let properties that I can utilize, I can source great deals through leveraging things like LENDLORD, get my financing in place on LENDLORD, and then refinance onto long-term products. So I hope that's been interesting. It's a little bit of a more unique video, but I want to show more and more of my actual portfolio. I think I'm showing a lot of how to do this rather than showing you the results of doing it. So if you did get value from this type of thing and you want to see more of the portfolio, how it's performing over a 5-year period, stuff like that, please do let me know in the comments, because I'd love to do it. Maybe I can take you around some of those as well. So if you haven't already, jump on LENDLORD. Genuinely, it's completely free. You can upgrade some premium features, which are insane, and I recommend doing. But check it out for free. Check out what it does. The link is in the description. It will blow your mind. Let me know what you thought of the video. Hit the like button, and of course, subscribe for future intakes and videos coming through.